Hello and welcome to another episode of On the Edge in Focus. I'm your host, Kristen Goodwillie, and today we have the new Dean of Student Affairs, Dr. Tonantzin Oseguera. Thank you so much for being here today.
Yes, thank you.
So, what does the Student Affairs do?
Sure. Student affairs is more commonly known kind of like as student services. So when you think about your financial aid, disability support services, all of the academic resource centers, your career center, the health center, the counseling center, all of those areas belong to student affairs. We also do a lot of outreach. So president scholars, veteran scholars, all of those kinds of outreach, for students and those kinds of scholarships all fall under the umbrella of student affairs. We also do a lot of the traditional things like student life and leadership, right? So student organizations, fraternities and sororities, and we also work very closely with ASI, your Associated Student Incorporated Student Government here at Cal State Fullerton. So it really is a large umbrella. Aside from academic affairs, which hosts all of the departments and the faculty, student affairs is the largest component of the university. We make up a significant portion of the university employees and the university services. So anything that isn't academic, student affairs does.
Wow.
So aside from, we don't teach, actually we do teach some classes.
Really?
The university freshman programs, we have a class, if any student took a university like 101 class their first year, that's, we actually do teach those classes. So I take that back, we teach a few classes.
Wow. So you just manage everything. I bet you have a very packed day.
It's a packed day. Thankfully, I don't manage all of it. I manage kind of like I'd say a smaller portion of it. Our VP of Student Affairs, Berenice Eanes, is really truly the one that manages all of the umbrella. I oversee the Dean of Students area, which currently includes student conduct, which is a good thing that I don't recognize your face. That means you haven't been through our office for a student conduct issue, which is great. I also oversee the area of students of concern. Now that's an area that I think most students don't know. And I typically describe it as kind of like the CIA work, only because students get referred to my office, to our office, if they're experiencing things like anxiety or depression, or they're have potentially a mental illness that is causing them to behave out of not really knowing kind of how to manage it or how to cope with it. So students get referred to our office, and myself and other members of what we call the Students of Concern Committee assess whether that student is a threat to themselves or a threat to others, meaning the rest of our students. And so we make those kind of threat assessments and work with a student individually to decide if the student can remain on campus, and then if they do, how we can help them to cope with whatever issue they're facing in their life. And so we get lots of students that come to us for that. And no one knows about it. The reason I call it kind of like the CIA work, you wouldn't know unless you either had a friend or you yourself had gone through something like that. And then we work to connect that student, be it with like the health center, the counseling center, something like that. But we do have a large population of our students who encountered different life issues throughout their time here, and so we want to make sure that they achieve their goal of graduation. So for us, it's about making sure that that student gets one-on-one attention and is able to, find some ways to cope with whatever issue they have, so that they can graduate and be productive in the classroom and stay with us. And so, like I said, that's the work that unless, we get referrals from faculty, we get referrals sometimes from other peers, students that are concerned about a friend. If they say, I think my friend, could be suicidal, I'm not sure, they've expressed that they don't like their life, they're very unhappy, they usually get referred to our office. And so, like I said, I'll work with that student to assess kind of where they're at and if we can help them out.
Do students also have the possibility of just reaching out to you?
Absolutely.
Do they do that?
Yes, absolutely. I do. That's why I like to get out and have students know me, so that if they ever face an issue, it doesn't matter how small or potentially large they think it is. I want students to know where they can find assistance. So if you don't know where else to go to the Dean of Students office, is what I always say. Start there, and we will make sure that we connect you with something. We also help students to navigate the university. And so, for example, if we get a lot of students who, in particular at the very beginning of the year, they've either missed a financial aid deadline, they had difficulty figuring out either the forms, or something happened with getting their class schedule, something like that. So they come to our office and we actually help them to figure it out. We work with their assistant dean of the college, whatever college they may be, and we make sure that they are getting at least, the best classes that they can as possible, right? Allowing that, we're not going to bump other students off, but we help students kind of navigate that issue. We get a lot of students who also, need to appeal if they've taken a class a certain number of times and they want to retake it, right? We help them write their appeal. We help them kind of make a case for like why they should be able to take their class again. We also help with a lot of faculty mediation, although that's an area that for us is a little bit challenging at times. But if we have a professor who perhaps is saying, some very biased things in the classroom, and a student comes to us and says, I'm concerned, I feel targeted, I'm not quite sure how to handle it, we help that student to be able to navigate that situation, but all at the same time empowering that student to be the best advocate for themselves. Because we're not going to, we're not your parents, we're not going to treat you like, oh, well, you don't know how to do anything, so we're going to do it for you. We help you to give you the tools to be able to be an advocate for yourself, but also there with you so that you feel you also have somebody that is, going to be a good advocate for you.
So it's kind of like a lot of student empowerment.
Yep,
That's
absolutely,
great.
absolutely.
What were some of the goals that you had coming into this position?
Yeah, primarily for me, one of the things is that our student conduct, it's all infrastructure, so it's going to sound very boring. There's nothing glamorous. It's like, it's not glamorous, work. I love it, but it's not like, wow, I'm going to build a new, building, or I'm going to have this program. It's not like that. The infrastructure for our student conduct is probably 10 years old in the sense that we've had one person, our associate dean, handled cases for 38,000 students. 1% for that amount of students is not nearly enough. So we've recently hired a new student conduct coordinator, so now we'll have two people. Still two people to manage cases. A caseload for 38,000 students is a lot. In particular, we don't get a lot of social infractions, which means, people at like parties or, vandalism or that kind of thing. Our students are, for the most part, I'd say well behaved when they're on campus. A lot of the cases that we have are academic integrity. So students not knowing how to cite properly, students blatantly copying papers, students cheating on tests, copying one another, helping each other when they probably shouldn't. And so those are the kinds of, same thing, we have the same approach of wanting to work with a student individually one-on-one to be able to assess, did the student blatantly cheat because they wanted to and thought it was the easiest thing to do, or did something else was going on? Oftentimes, in particular where students don't know how to cite properly, it's truly because they didn't know. And so instead of being punitive or punishing someone, we work with that person to be able to help them learn how to cite properly. So we actually refer them to the library. And they have wonderful workshops on how to cite properly, how to look up resources, and to be able to make sure that you are still sharing your own ideas, that they're your ideas, but based on somebody, and you give credit to somebody. You're going to say, Einstein had this wonderful idea, and I think this worked and that worked. There's a way to do it.
Right. Is that something that you implemented? Was that not happening before? Or how
no, it was definitely happening. I think it just needs more support and more focus. And we're also exploring different ways to help students. I'm always very interested in using technology. So for me, one of my goals and ideas is to have something like a module online that helps students how to cite. So if you're like, okay, I have this paper and I'm supposed to cite, but I don't really know how. If you don't have the time to come physically to a workshop at the library, that you can kind of click on a video or click on something that says, hey, here's your resources at Cal State Fullerton, right? Because you could probably Google like how to cite, and there's a whole bunch of stuff, and that's great. But you may not know this particular resources at Cal State Fullerton. Like we have a writing lab, we have we have a learning center that if you take your paper, they'll help you to make sure that it's a well-crafted paper, and they'll make sure that you get some help with it. Also overseen by student affairs. So, and so that for me, like I said, it's not glamorous. So it's building kind of the infrastructure to help students. Probably the largest project is the Students of Concern Committee. In the past, had been kind of done ad hoc, meaning, we have a representative from CAPS, which is our counseling center, somebody from the police department, somebody from Disability Support Services, the dean of students, and then also our conduct officer. But the way and the consistency in which students were being referred, and then the services and the level of services that the student received haven't been consistent.
Right.
And we're seeing more and more cases. And so for me, it's very important that we have a process. If a student gets referred to our office for whatever issue, that we're able to help them and it's consistent. So one student isn't getting less or more than somebody else. And that they're truly getting the help and we're not making an assessment, because that's somebody's life. Right? They're not making just an assessment. We're like, well, you know, this person can't be on campus because we think they're gonna like hurt somebody. But we don't know that. And so did we do our due diligence and, getting an evaluation, getting a psychiatric evaluation, really working to make sure that we're not just kicking students off because we think they're weird or they're unusual or they're not normal, because we have lots of students and each of you is unique and you have your own story and you're wonderful in your own way, and we have to respect each person when they come to us in that manner. So for me it's really important, same thing, that we build kind of an infrastructure, and then we also start sharing how people can refer students to us. You mentioned you didn't know. We have lots of students that they don't realize that they could refer a friend, or if they're really concerned about someone, that they can refer them to our office. I want to be able also to do it in a way that's anonymous, so that for a lot of students, like faculty have no problem. They will usually say, oh, let me tell you about my student, and they give me like their name, their CWID, their social security, like they'll give me all their information. I was like, they have this boyfriend and this girlfriend. I was like, wow. So faculty, I'm not concerned about getting the information about students, but other students, I don't think they know. And I think, we would probably be able to help more students navigate some things, which would translate into them actually staying here and not dropping out or stopping out. And to me, that's important. We want to make sure that every single student that comes to Cal State Fullerton, I'm committed that every single student, once they're enrolled and they come here for classes, we want to make sure that they actually graduate.
It's a great goal.
It's as basic as that. And so whatever we can do to help that student actually graduate, I'm going to make sure that we put resources and services to be able to do it. And I think that because of a lot of budget cuts, in particular in student affairs, because it's very easy for the first thing to be cut when there's budgets, student services, right? It's like, well, students don't need that, students don't need this, students don't need that. It's very, simple on the surface to be able to say, let's take that away. But now we're getting a lot of those resources back, and so we can put some energy and resources into helping the students.
Earlier you were telling me that you helped with student life. How would someone get involved if they're shy or just don't really know how?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's tough, right? It's 38,000 students. It's a big campus. It can be very overwhelming. I think my advice to any first-year student coming in is to first really get some bearings on, the basic stuff, study skills, writing skills, making some connections with friends, finding study buddies, finding a group of people in each of your classes that you can connect with and that you might be able to study with, might be able to share information. I think getting that basic kind of thing down your first semester is very, very important, because typically a lot of the students that I mentioned that come to our office and have challenges are first year students who don't know quite how to manage that, or in high school, hey, it was totally easy to get A's and B's and sleep through class and write, an okay paper. And, their teachers thought they were awesome. And that's great. But when they come here, classes are a lot tougher. No one's waking you up. You don't have your parents calling you, right? Like, did you do your paper? Well, maybe some students do. But the majority of our students don't have somebody that's going to be on them. And your teachers aren't going to remind you, right? Like, oh, by the way, your paper's due. They'll give you a syllabus and you're expected to read it, and, hey, you have a paper due November 5th. And so they're not going to ask you or remind you. They might say, hey, for your papers, don't forget to include these readings, or they might do something like that. But by and large, you're expected to turn in a paper on November 5th. And so if you need assistance, go figure it out, right?
Do you have programs that students can go to be helped with time management?
Absolutely.
And all of that?
Yes, our career services does a great job in doing time management, study skills. The library has a few workshops as well in terms of, how to, like I said, do research papers, how to find information. We have amazing librarians that if you, walk up to one of the references and say, hey, I'm writing a paper in anthropology about the Incas, where would I find information that is actually research, scholarly, and not just Wikipedia, because that for a lot of scholarly papers, that doesn't count.
Yes.
You know, and they will kind of give you and point you to, like, they will work with you and say, okay, give me, you know, this amount of time and I'll get you articles and books and research, you know, that you can find it. They're not going to read them for you and, you know, they're not going to do that for you, but at least they'll give you some really good
push in the right
information.
direction.
And it's like, that's great. That's amazing. So I think for a first, you know, your first semester, I think it's important to kind of get that settled and really well, and then to start to look for things that you know, want to get involved. You know, we do our Discover Fest every single year, comes around. You know, and we have over 300 student organizations and over about 100, you know, departments and offices that are out at Discover Fest that, you know, look at, you know, you can find almost anything. We've got, you know, a chess club, a paintball club, you know, running club. We have a Quidditch club. We have, you know, like anything you can think of. Yes, anything that you can think of, we probably have. Yeah.
Okay.
And if we don't, you and 5 friends can get together and start a new group.
Okay.
As easy as that. And so, you know, I think it's also kind of trying to find a group that kind of matches your values and, you know, explore different things. I think it's about that. I also encourage students as freshmen to go to the Career Center. I know most people think like, oh, you should only go, you know, when you're a senior and you're about to graduate. It's too late then. I think as a freshman, you know, get connected to the Career Center. Like I said, they have really great, wonderful workshops. They'll help you to, you know, to write a good resume. They do like mock interviews, and they also get you connected to internships. I think now more than ever, education is important, but the way our graduates are obtaining jobs is truly through internships. So my mantra for students, I will always ask about internships. You know, being involved in something like what you're doing now is great because it's giving you, you know, real life experience.
Yes.
And it's something that you can say, look, I did this, you know, I did this many broadcast hours, like all of that's important. And for a lot of students, internships are the only way that they're going to get a foot in the door and get experience. And so for me, that's, you know, that's important. I also say, you know, find a job on campus. I know lots of our students work about 2 or 3 jobs. The majority of our students work 2 jobs. So if you think about it, you're in classes for at least, you know, 20, 30 hours a week. And then we have students that are also working, you know, an additional 40 hours a week on top of that. I don't know how students sleep sometimes, but, you know, it is difficult, and it's because of, you know, oftentimes a lot of our students are demographic, they're first generation college students. So a majority of, you know, their tuition is covered by financial aid.
Would they go to the Career Center?
Same thing, they would go to the Career Center, yes, list all of the on-campus jobs. Yeah, it's really great, and there's lots and lots of jobs. ASI employs, you know, over like hundreds of students in the Rec Center and the Children Development Center and the Titan Shops. Like, they have lots of students.
And
so
they
that's
work
great
with schedule and understand the
and
studies,
understand,
right?
yes,
That's
yes. We have several students who work in our office, and, you know, when they say, oh my God, I have a paper to write a final, it's like, you're a student first, and so get your stuff done, and then, you know, we'll work around your schedule.
Right. How do you feel about extracurriculars? Do you think they're important?
They are absolutely important. It's kind of like the same thing almost as an internship. Yep.
Okay.
It's real life experience. You know, you're with a group of people, and you have to, you know, get along, play well with others, right? And you're usually, a group is either social in nature, you know, or they're trying to do something. Most of our groups do some sort of great philanthropic service. We're actually one of the top 5 schools in the nation that do a lot of community service.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And so our students clearly are committed to community service. So, you know, they're doing like not just the basic like blood donations or beach cleanups, but a lot of our students are actually, you know, going to the food banks and, you know, sorting out the food and, you know, giving out the food. And so there's just a lot of commitment, lots of work with Habitat for Humanity. Our students in particular, our fraternities and sororities, raise like a crazy amount of money for really good charities. You know, City of Hope, Children's, you know, like just all kinds of different things that they do. And so those are all really good things that I think add value to your college experience, make it fun, right? Because it should be fun. You know, classes are exciting and they should, you know, make you want to learn, but you know, being involved and having an involvement in an extracurricular activity makes your college experience fun. And so there's lots of ways to do it, and everyone's experience is different. So, you know, even though you may not be in a student organization, you're clearly involved through Titan TV, right? And it's a great place to get experience, and so you meet lots of people. So any way that you can get connected to the university of doing something just outside of the classroom is going to be very important.
Is there, besides Discover Fest, what other programs do you
man.
have? For instance, if a student wanted to do a beach cleanup, could they, where would they go to
So come
join?
yes, absolutely. So come to the Student Life and
Okay.
Leadership Office in the Titan Student
It's
Union.
in the state.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Room 235, and we
Okay.
actually have graduate assistants and other students who kind of serve as peers to say, oh, so what are your interests? What do you want to get involved? And they help you find like different options about different groups that are already in existence that you can get connected to. We also have a great volunteer student programs where if you're just that student, you're like, I don't have a group, but I just want to show up to a beach cleanup, you can go to the volunteer student programs and they'll say, great, we have 6 different things that need volunteers this week. Which one would you like to join? And you can just sign up, and you're signed up with a bunch of other students who, may know each other, but often don't, and they just go do a beach cleanup, go to Habitat for Humanity, volunteer for all kinds of different things. So, yeah, it's good stuff.
Have you noticed with commuters, I know that they have a harder time getting involved. Do you have any suggestions for people who commute, how they can get
involved?
The most? Yeah.
I think by now, probably those, students that are like juniors and seniors have kind of figured it out. Like if they schedule all their classes on Tuesday and Thursday, then they only have to come to campus once a day. I mean, that's a good trick, right? But if you have classes staggered, because it's not always going to work, right? Because of the class schedule. But if you have gaps in your schedule, go to the Titan Student Union, check out what's going on, go work out in the rec center. So there's different ways you can kind of fill your day to do a variety of different things. There's always, I always joke with students and say, you can always find you could go through like a whole week and just eat free food on campus because usually there's like a group meeting or like an open forum of some sort that is serving like, bagels and juice in the morning and then pizza at lunch and then like for dinner, they have like tacos or something. So if you looked at the schedule, right? Yeah. And like at the through the portal of like Titan involvement, you would see all of the different group meetings, and in there it lists, and usually the way we get students is like free food, free food, free food, and so you could literally eat. Yeah, right. It's a good tactic. So you could literally eat like for a whole week for free on campus if you really wanted to. So I think just kind of finding those gaps, and I know students are busy. We also recognize that students have multiple life issues. I mean, we have students who are parents themselves and are trying to get through school, and so for me there's a different way to be involved. Not everybody has to be involved in the same way. There's different ways to get connected, and it's to me it would be much more important that a student does well in their academics, has an internship, and as at least aware that there's free services on campus, that you can go to the health center, you pay your health center fee. And so, we were doing flu shots out in the quad for free. I think there was like over 300 or 400 students that got a free flu shot, and all they had is like stand, and we had nurses, and you got a shot and done for free. Right? So those are all good stuff. Yeah.
One quick question.
Yes.
What are your future goals? What do you hope to achieve with your time here?
I really hope that we're able to, have more students graduate. Our graduation rate is fairly low in comparison to our sister institutions. We're right now like in the 50%. That's not good enough. And our president Garcia has said that that's not good enough. We need to be we should at least be in the 70s, and we're not. And so we are, as a university, both faculty and staff are working really hard to ensure that we get that percentage rate up, not because we want the percentage rate to go up, but because we want our students to come in here and feel like if they come here, they will graduate.
Well, thank you so much
for
taking the time to be here. It's been great.
Yes, thank you. Appreciate it.
And thank you for watching another episode of On the Edge in Focus. I'm your host, Kristen Goodwillie.